I want you to know that even if you're not diagnosed or you're self-diagnosed or you don't think you have ADHD, a lot of the struggles that people with ADHD have are shared with people who have trauma. It affects many same parts of the brain, and also people who have screen addiction, aka everyone, because screen time increases dopamine production in the brain. And when we turn off screens, our brain is like overflowed with dopamine and it underproduces to try and balance that out. So, in this age of screen addiction, most people are operating with an executive functioning disorder because the dopamine balance is out of whack. So, I'm going to read the description of an executive functioning disorder. This is from ADD Attitude Magazine, which is an online resource for ADHD, which is very, very helpful. Executive function is a set of skills that allows people to plan for goals, make adjustments to meet those goals, manage time effectively, remember what they've heard and read, and exercise self-control. In many people with ADHD, executive function doesn't work as it should because the parts of the brain that control these skills are impacted by ADHD. So, I want to talk about how does this brain work? What are the things that it impacts? Why it's different for women, and things that can help. So, one of the best ways of thinking about this is the ADHD brain prioritizes interesting over important. And by prioritizes, I mean like turning on and getting into action. So, for example, someone can say to you, it's extremely important that you file your taxes by this date. Someone who has a neurotypical brain or someone who doesn't have ADHD might hear the word important and go, okay, shoot, I don't want to do it. I've been putting it off. It's boring as fuck, but I have to do it. It's important. And their brain turns on all of the things that they need to do in order to get that done. Someone with ADHD will have similar thoughts. Oh my God, I have to do it. It's so important. I'm going to get the fines. We better get it done. But the brain doesn't turn on the functions to get it done. So that's when we just sit or do something else or lie on the couch or whatever. Some people call it couch lock. Some people call it, being in paralysis. Some people call it avoidant. Me and my friends call it being stuck in the vortex. But basically, the desire is there. You think the thoughts, you know that it's important, but the brain doesn't actually like turn on. Nothing happens. Our brains learn how to make things interesting for us so that they can produce that chemical that will get us started. And psychologists, psychiatrists call this maladapt. So your brain will maladapt to basically make things interesting for you. And some of the typical ways are procrastination, being late. So for example, you can't seem to get out of bed or leave the house until the time that you're supposed to be there to meet the person. And then you get this rush of oh shit. And suddenly you can just get up and go very quickly. So that is a way that the brain has figured out, this is how I can make myself go. Another thing that's very common that makes things interesting for people is actually picking fights. So if you find that you feel like you have to die on every hill, like you need to argue with people about things, that's actually a very common ADHD trait. And your brain has figured out a way of engaging by making things interesting. Let me continue with this list and see if any of these you can relate to. Novelty over habit. I've been in so many programs where the coach was do this thing for, 40 days and you create the habits and your life will change. And that would be so wonderful. But that's not the way my brain works. It feels amazing at the beginning, the novelty. And then once the novelty wears off, the habit wears off. And this can be extremely frustrating because we're told all our lives, oh, just make it into a habit. Do habit matching. Do it when you're brushing your teeth. Do it when this, do it when that. Actually, a lot of people with ADHD don't brush their teeth. Making something into a habit isn't enough. Now, things that are addictive, different story. But it's the novelty of things. Who can relate to jumping into something like a new exercise regime or, a morning routine or a planning and scheduling system. And it just feels so good and it's really working and it really feels good. And then for some reason, at some point, your body is just oh, I'm done with that now. That is a very normal thing for people with ADHD. I wrote task initiation, transition between tasks. So this is part of the dopamine deficiency in the brain. Task initiation is that thing that I was just talking about. Like you want to get up and go, you want to do the thing, the desire is there. There might even be anxiety and worry if you're like, not filing your taxes or you know that it's important to get this thing done. And a lot of times we can put ourselves down and say like, oh, I'm not motivated, or like I can't motivate myself from the inside. I'm more focused on outside motivation, and we hold a lot of shame for that, but that's morally neutral. That's just socially constructed that we should be able to do that. Task initiation is almost impossible if your brain doesn't have someone pushing the on button for you. You can have all the desire in the world, but if there's nothing that's going to make you actually get up off the couch or out of bed or whatever it is, then your body just hasn't, it's not doing it. The same thing is for transitioning between tasks. So this is like an example of doing one more thing when you're literally about to leave the house or like you're about to go to bed and you're like, oh, let me just reorganize my whole entire cupboards. It's also that thing where you get distracted halfway through things. I used to call it walking in circles, but it's like, I put my coat on to leave the house, and then I realize like, oh, I have to take out the recycling. And then when I'm going to get the recycling, I see that a light is out. So I'm like, oh, let me change that light bulb. So I go to the drawer with the light bulbs and I see all my coins in there. And I'm like, oh, let me roll these coins. So 2 hours later, I find myself sitting on my bed with my coat on, with the recycling on the kitchen counter, and a light bulb on my bed, and a bunch of like half rolled coin rolls. And I'm sweating because I've been wearing my coat in the house for 2 hours. Like it's craziness. And I remember when one of my friends first, ta-da, costume change. Just had to go and do some momming for the last 36 hours. Let's continue. Okay, I took notes. I wanted to say I had a friend who started medication for ADHD, and this was one of the main things that changed for her was that thing. So she said she was finally able to like get stuff done, stuff that previously would have taken her all day. She could just like do it in an hour or 2 hours. Okay. So another one of these qualities is the out of sight, out of mind thing. And it's like everyone maybe has all of these things to some extent, but if you have ADHD, it's to a much more extreme extent. This is very true for me. If something's like not right in front of my face, I completely forget about it. This has affected friendships where I just don't think about people when I don't see them. And it's nothing personal. And luckily, at this point in my life, I have friendships that understand that they have to initiate, they have to reach out to me. But this can be a real big thing for people with ADHD because you just don't think of things that aren't in your immediate view. Something similar to that is this thing that our brain does, where it's like when the main chunk of a work or a project or a desire or whatever it is done, it's done. It feels almost impossible to follow through or follow up. So, for example, when I was doing wedding photography, it would be like I would shoot the thing and then my brain would be like, great, it's done. And I wouldn't be able to make myself start editing the photos until the deadline. So if I told my clients 4 weeks, I would start editing them in 4 weeks. And keep in mind, this takes like 30 to 40 to 60 hours to do. If I told them it would take 6 weeks, I would start in 6 weeks. It's like there's nothing I could say to make myself start doing that thing because in my mind, I shot the wedding and now it's done. And this can also show up when it's like you've done a job and now you have to send invoices, or now you have to follow up with clients. It's very, very, very difficult to make your brain do that thing because the like interesting, exciting part or the main chunk is finished. And that can be really, really detrimental if you run your own business, not getting paid for jobs that you've had. I actually sent someone an email, I think it was a year or 2 years after their wedding, because I lost the check. Like they paid me and I just forgot to cash the check. I lost it, out of sight, out of mind. And then a couple of years later, I found it in a drawer or in a doom box or something. And I felt so ashamed. I had to contact them and be like, sorry, I know it's been years, but can you please send me thousands of dollars because I didn't cash that check? So this can be really, really difficult. It can create a lot of shame. It can sabotage business. It can sabotage so many opportunities for word of mouth. This also, with that lateness, with the deadlines, with the photography, it's like I would deliver the photos and people would write to me and be like, these photos are amazing. They're the best photos we've ever seen. And all I could think was like, well, I stayed up all night for a week and I missed this concert that I bought tickets to months ago because I had this deadline. I had to cancel on my best friend's birthday because I had this deadline. I had to do all these things. And so all I could think was, my life is a shit show. I suck, blah, blah, blah. And what that does is it cancels out the feeling of success in your body. Remember, confidence is the memory of success. So if you're having success, people literally told me all the time, these are the best photos we've ever seen. And I never had the feeling of success because it was such a fucking shit show for me to complete the job. And also just in terms of manifesting, besides the confidence piece, I never got to be in that energy of success, right? I never got to be in that vibe and feel that feeling like I did it. And it also gives you this constant feeling of being like, I know I could have done better. I've never given my full potential because I left it till the last minute and I wasn't sleeping or eating, blah, 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 blah. So one of the sort of myths about ADHD is the distraction piece. People say like people with ADHD will like see a squirrel run past and suddenly be like, look, a squirrel. And that is not exactly true. What's actually happening is there's an inability to not respond to stimuli. So everyone sees the squirrel and notices it, but other people will be able to say like, no, you don't have to react to that right now. Whereas the ADHD brain will just have the reaction. And this can show up in many ways. So one of the ways is interrupting a lot because someone will be talking and you'll suddenly think of your idea that you relate to this thing or whatever. And even though you feel like you're trying to connect with someone or relate to someone, you're saying, oh my God, me too. Like something similar happened to me, or I've experienced that, or I've also read that book. It just comes across as antisocial behavior sometimes, interrupting, making it about you, blah, blah, blah. These can be things that cause women a lot of shame and anxiety around their social skills. And another thing is like not listening, or what I would clarify it as is forgetting to listen. Have you ever just been in a conversation where you're halfway through the conversation with someone and you suddenly just realize like, oh my God, I have no idea what they're talking about. I completely forgot to focus and listen. And it means that you can forget about important things that people you love have told you. And then when you don't know that thing, it can feel really hurtful to them. It can feel like, how can you forget that this major thing happened to me and you weren't even listening when I told you? So these are things that can really affect women with ADHD because there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of behaviors that would be considered antisocial, and it can be really depressing. The last thing I wrote was hyperfocus, and hyperfocus is actually an ADHD superpower because it gives you the ability to like dive deep into researching a thing, like getting to know it really, really well. Like, how do you think I know so much about ADHD? And when your passion is there, it gives you a really clear head. You've got amazing ideas. You see the whole picture. You see how everything is interrelated. You understand how things connect. It's like a superpower. And it's amazing. And it can also really be detrimental to your health. You don't need to eat. You don't need to pee. You don't need to sleep. You can hold in, like if you have to use the bathroom. It's really easy to neglect our bodies and our physical health when we're in a mode of hyperfocus. And it can lead to burnout and all sorts of health issues. And then when it's done, sometimes it can be a real feeling of like depression. After it's done, it's like back in the brain fog, completely burned out, like almost like a hangover, right? So these are the main things that I've experienced. There's so many other variants of this. Some people have rejection sensitivity disorders. Some people have sensory things. There's all sorts of different things. I mean, the terms neurotypical and neurodiverse, it's like all brains are different. There's no two people in the world who have the same brain. Okay, I want to talk briefly about why ADHD is different for women than it is for men. I think something that is very much overlooked for a lot of people, which is that a lot of the things that ADHD affects are traditionally women's work or things that women are expected to do in life. So organizing and scheduling, like think about taking care of a family. Think about simple things like looking in the pantry and the fridge, like seeing what foods are going off, seeing what's running low, making that list, knowing what you're going to cook, knowing what you're going to do for 3 meals a day, like knowing what levels the laundry is at. All of those things that it takes to run a household, that even when women are working full-time jobs, women who are cohabitating with men are still doing the majority of this work. And women who are cohabitating with men and who have children are doing like 3 times the amount of work. But also all of the other things like keeping in touch with family, organizing parties, sending birthday cards, getting birthday presents for your kids, friends, remembering things to do with school, remembering appointments. All of that stuff is stuff that women with ADHD like cannot do. It's really fucking hard. Besides the sort of like antisocial things, it means that not only do you feel like, oh, why can't I have the success like in my business or whatever, but it's like, why are the simplest things so hard for me? And it can cause a lot of shame. And in work roles too, a lot of times women will be like moving up a ladder in a position in a company and get to a point where they need this executive functioning and they start to drop the ball. And so a lot of women will self-demote and be like, I guess this work isn't for me. And they go into support positions. It's so fucked up because the support positions are all executive functioning. Like we're talking about basically being like in reception or an office manager or supporting someone else specifically to do all of that planning and coordination and mental load so that that person can focus on their creativity and their genius. So women demote themselves into these support positions of being assistants and being, administrators, where instead they should have gone up one and delegated that stuff that ADHD women struggle with so that they could focus on their genius and their creativity. When you look at all of the business leaders who are like known as geniuses, those are men with ADHD. Like it's not just toxic positivity to say like ADHD is a superpower. There are real benefits to having a brain that happens to work this way. Like another thing about ADHD is like, are you terrible at small talk? Do you hate it? Is it even possible for you? Because I know I love big talk and that is very charming and I'm really good at connecting with people in that way. That's an ADHD trait, like being funny, being creative, being charming, like being quirky and being able to understand things in a very specific way. That's all connected with your genius. And so many women demote themselves instead of promoting themselves. Because the truth is, like the men who are at the top who have ADHD, they didn't get there by themselves. They got there with their mom and their wife and their secretary and all of the social structures that support men and allow men to be able to ask for things and delegate things. So the result of all of this is that most women who are diagnosed with ADHD are also diagnosed with anxiety and depression. If you go into a Facebook group, there are so many amazing Facebook groups for women with ADHD, tens of thousands of women. And most of the women will say they've been treated for anxiety and depression for most of their life. And it wasn't until they were treated for ADHD that their anxiety and depression got better. Because the cause of all of that anxiety and depression is all of the things that I've listed, like not being able to maintain relationships, like not being able to follow through or follow up or like cross the motherfucking finish line when you're going after your goals and your dreams. And the struggles, like why are simple things impossible for me? Like, how did I spend the whole day like just lying on the couch? What's wrong with me? If only I was clean, if only I was more organized, if only I, this, that, the other. It creates so much shame. It creates so much shame for women. And it really is like it affects women very, very differently from men. This program is built with so many things that can help women with ADHD. Body doubling, so like co-working. I used to call it an adult babysitter before I knew about the term body doubling. But it's like that thing where it's like you just need someone to come over and sit on the edge of the bed while you're packing for your trip, or like folding your laundry, or organizing your boxes of shit that you've been avoiding looking at. That is 100% proven. Deadlines actually work. I dropped out of my master's program because my main project that was due at a certain time, I was struggling to get done. And bless him, my professor said to me, honestly, just get it to me whenever you can. And for a split second, I had a flash in my mind of like, I had looked at the calendar dates for the semester, and it had said like last day to submit for term, last day to submit for the year, last day to submit before getting your money back, last day submit. And in my mind, the last, very last day, the date flashed in my mind, and it was so far in advance. It was so much longer than I had planned on doing this work. And I had the intuition and the wherewithal to say, oh, for fuck's sake, I know for a fact that I'm not going to even be able to start working on this until like the day before that date. And I have no desire to live the next several months of my life in that personal hell. Deadlines are very, very helpful. Fake deadlines, even better. On the first date with my partner, I was 15 minutes late. And I said to him, look, I'm always going to be late. Like, you have to lie to me and tell me to meet you half an hour before you want to meet. And he was like, oh, no, 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 I don't want to do that. And I said, look, if you want to meet me, you have to lie to me and tell me half an hour, or I'm going to be late. And he was like, well, what if you're early one day and then I'm half an hour late? And I was like, no, 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 like it's just never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So don't worry about it. Fake deadlines can be a help. Okay, structure specifically from outside structures, not self-created. As I said, structures and systems implemented by yourself or monitored by yourself are great when there's novelty, but when the novelty wears off, habit is not like carrying you through. So structures outside of yourself, having a boss, having client deadlines, like having an office to go to work to, having like teachers who give you deadlines, like all of those things outside of yourself are very, very helpful for getting that activation in the brain. Here's a really, really, really important one that not enough people are talking about: pleasure, fun, and joy. Remember, the brain prioritizes interesting over important. And like everybody puts things off. Procrastination is not the same as ADHD. Everybody hates doing their taxes or whatever that typical boring thing is that nobody wants to do. But that's not the same as ADHD. ADHD is like when you haven't done your taxes for like 6 to 10 years and you live under a permanent cloud of dread, and the government intervenes and like freezes your bank account at the time that you need it the most. Like these are things that really impact your life on a day-to-day basis. They impact your mental health. They impact every area of your life. Then you know you have ADHD. And I'm talking about personal experience. Pleasure, fun, and joy actually works. It actually makes your brain turn on. Turn on. Think about the term. It turns on, it activates your brain, it gets you going, it works. And guess what? Pleasure and joy also create habit. Just for example, if I go to the coffee shop and eat a chocolate peanut butter cookie and think it's delicious, I do not have to do that every day for 40 days to create a habit. I'm going to tell you, I only need to do it once. If it's that good, I'm going to do it the next day or as often as I can because it's so delicious. Pleasure can create a habit. Like you don't need to have this belief that, oh, you have to do it X number of times before it creates a habit. Pleasure, fun, and joy are like a shortcut in life, and especially for ADHD people who need some extra support. Okay, and then the second last one that I wrote was forgiveness, permission, and self-acceptance. So I'm putting a link in this post to a website called Struggle Care. And I read this website, someone sent it to me, and I wept because The term that she uses is that it's morally neutral. So you like didn't clean your house for 6 weeks and there are piles of garbage everywhere. The shame, the shame, the shame. But it's like actually having a messy house is morally neutral. Or you haven't done laundry, guess what? It's morally neutral. You haven't brushed your teeth for a week, that's actually morally neutral. Like it doesn't fucking matter. There's nothing wrong with you. Like you're not a bad person. It's simply that your brain didn't let you do that right now. And learning how to have forgiveness, give yourself permission, and have radical self acceptance, not only does it help because it cuts out the shame, but it actually also cuts down the resistance. Because if you already have a brain that's like not able to make you do these things, and then you pile shame on top of that, it just gets harder and harder and harder. So you're taking the shame off, you're taking the load and making it lighter so that when you at some point find something that's going to help you do the thing, it's so much easier. It's again such a simple thing, but truly profound, and it works. There's two more things. One of the main things that can help is medication. That helps with ADHD. And I spent my whole life being against medication, just some weird belief that I had that I hadn't questioned. But like, think about the fact that your brain is missing a key ingredient. Like, if you were baking a cake, but you didn't have flour or you didn't have sugar, you would just need to go and get that and add it in. And so that's what the medication does. And it's the same with like, you wouldn't shame a diabetic person for not being able to produce their own insulin. They go and they take insulin as medication. That's what their body needs, and their body's not creating it. Medication won't fix all your problems. It won't fix all your problems. You still have to learn how to use systems and structures to support you. But what it does is it brings you up to the level of capacity that you can actually use those systems and structures. Because a lot of times systems and structures are great, but we don't even have the ability to utilize them because of where we're at. So medication can help you just get to the place where you can actually use like habit trackers, scheduling, alarms, apps, whatever it is that you're drawn to that will help you. Medication. And now here's the actual final one. Now I read this in an amazing, brilliant book. Similarly, I'm putting the link below. Women with ADD by Sari Solden. The book is amazing. And there's a whole chapter on the different types of medications and what their strengths and weaknesses are. And she's definitely like pro-medication. And so all that being said, in her book, she actually uses the words cardio exercise is almost the same as medication. Almost the same. That's a very strong endorsement. So cardio exercise, that means if someone says it's really important for you to do this thing and you're like, well, I fucking wish that I could, but my brain and my body aren't moving off this couch right now. People have all these suggestions. Oh, if you're procrastinating, set a timer and just do 15 minutes or like, do the tomato timer, this, that, and the other. If none of that stuff is working for you, it could be something completely different that turns on your brain. Like maybe you just need to get up and run up and down the stairs 5 times or dance for 1 minute until your heart gets pumping. But the fact is, cardio exercise actually helps. Rise is a very ADHD friendly program. Like if you start things and then they peter out, if you find it hard to do homework and stay consistent once the novelty has worn off, if you like have shame from dabbling, being late, procrastinating, or never following through, Rise is a program that is designed to deal with this. There is about 25 minutes of homework per day. If you look at the worksheet and just say like, okay, I'll do a little bit every day. If you can't make yourself do that, you can come to the 90-minute call and co-work in the group. That means that when the call is done, your work is done. If you find you can't commit to writing out your goal, repeating affirmations over and over and over again, that's why all of the lessons are just meant to be listened to on repeat. You just have to download them to your phone and listen to them on repeat every day, once a day, twice a day, whatever makes you happy. But it's like the repetition is going to change your mindset. And instead of making you make something up and write it and write it and write it, you can just listen to the lesson every day on repeat. the fear of falling behind or pushing so hard that it's not fun anymore, aka perfectionism. Every week I start the call and I say, your timing is perfect and elegant. And I mean it. The attitude of my coaching and this program is literally that there's no wrong way to do this. If you do one thing or 10 things, if it feels good, it's working. And that actually works for people. That has been a life-changing process for people. Some people who've never opened a worksheet got to the end of the program and they were like, I gave myself permission to not even open a worksheet and my whole life changed. So really letting go of this like pushing and perfectionism habit that is instilled in all of us. And then finally, just the ability to like show up as a fucking mess, as a dud, if you're going through a breakup, if you're having chronic pain, if you are tired and you're in bed, you can come late, you can leave early, you can be in bed on the calls, you can be in the bath. But like the whole idea of the program is just be yourself. And this is the beginning of learning how to stop masking and stop pretending and start feeling like it's safe to be you and it's safe to just be you. And that's it. It is my pride and joy to have a community that people feel safe and learn how to show up messy, because there's so many more important things in life, and showing up messy is morally neutral. The final thing I want to say to you about all of this is coming to terms with however it is that your brain works is a journey in itself. There's going to be grief and there's going to be freedom and validation. For me, the grief was like, okay, I have literally tried everything to try and fix myself. Before I knew I had ADHD, I had to contend with the fact that I'm never actually going to wake up someday and be someone who can have a perfect morning routine, keep my house clean, do all sorts of these executive functioning things with ease. There's never going to be a day that I just wake up someday as someone completely new with a different brain. So grieving that, grieving the things that we've tried to mask and hide and change and improve all of our lives, but also the validation, because I want you to listen, listen to me now and listen good. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with the way that you do things. There's nothing wrong with doing things at the last minute. There's nothing wrong with being messy. And there's nothing wrong with you that these things are difficult for you. It's not because of your personality. It's not because of laziness. It's not because you don't have enough desire. It's not because you're not motivated. It's simply your hardware. I would consider all those things I just listed software, right? This is just the hardware that you're working with. You have other strengths. There's a saying that's like, manage your weaknesses and develop your strengths. Really, there's nothing wrong with you. And when you realize like this isn't your personality, it's not some damage that you have, it's not because you're a bad person, it's just a different way that some brains work. It can feel so validating to finally realize that like you're perfect, you're amazing, and you still get to have what you want. When you learn to let go of the shame of the shit you've gone through, the hot mess and the chaos, and learn to recognize your successes without all of the self-attack, starting to reinforce everything that you have actually got done, everything that you've accomplished, every single thing that is amazing about you, um, you will get what you want. You get to have what you want. And think about all of the geniuses out there, a lot of them men, who, yes, they have ADHD too. And once you have the support that you need, you will be able to achieve your dreams and your goals just like everyone else.